This is Arts Alive. I'm Lynda Philippi, and Happy New Year, because this is our first show of the season of 2014. And today my guests are Ted Desel and Lance Nuttman, and they're here to talk about Gallery's Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, which is opening up on January 17th.
True.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here today. So Ted, we'll start with you, I guess, since you're the director. You want to tell us a little bit about what made you decide to stage Cat again after almost 30 years?
30 years? Was it that long?
I think so, yeah.
Why? Well, I hadn't really thought about the other production, only that I had done it. Mm-hmm. And since there are several choices of scripts, this one I liked. It appealed to me. And I had forgotten the first one, frankly, how it ends, because there's a different third act in particular.
Okay.
And so there's, and in the other scripts in between, there's a couple or three other scripts in between. Let me back up. Tennessee Williams liked to rewrite everything he wrote. And so this one in particular went through several stages of writing. Both for the original production, 2 movies. He wrote another one, and then finally this one that he and Kazan finally put together that changed. Most of the changes are in the third act in terms of how the play ends.
Okay.
And so that was important to me, because I saw that it's not a pat conclusion. You're left with an open-ended kind of, we don't know. And Williams himself said he didn't want to write about tomorrow. He said, well, let's get through this night, and then that's the story that we're dealing with. Mm-hmm. So it's not one of these that has a nice happy ending and you know what's going to happen tomorrow and things are going to go well. It's left rather ambivalent, because Williams really wanted to look at how a group of people in certain circumstances are going to work things out, or not. And so the writing is very, very poetic in many ways, but it's very real. It's almost a Greek play, if you like, because we start at one moment and go straight through to the end. That doesn't mean it's a 4-hour marathon. Mm-hmm. It just means that where one act ends, you start right there to start the next. So it's all in time. Mm-hmm. The action of the play takes place in that time. And then there's a lot of elements that have very Greek qualities, because there's things that happen off stage that punctuate the action that's going on inside. So it's a very fascinating play in terms of how it's put together.
So maybe people who think they know the play are in for a bit of a surprise.
Well, you know, we talked a couple of years ago about On Golden Pond, and everybody thinks about the movie.
Right.
Okay. Well, this is another one of those. I think about Elizabeth Taylor and Paul Newman, wasn't it? Yeah, Paul
Burl
Newman.
Ives.
Yeah, Burl Ives. and that becomes kind of the way people measure the play. They think they know the play. Mm-hmm. Well, this script is a little different than that, partly because that's a movie, and they always do different things with it. But you know, there's I think there's a lot of humor in this play that people don't think about when they think about Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, partly because of how characters deal with crises. And some really go off the deep end sometimes. But we find ourselves in there somewhere from moment to moment. And so, well, yeah, go. Well, now that's kind of strange. So it's fun. It's fun. And it's deep. And
that it is.
And that's where you come in, and you've got the Paul Newman role, don't you?
Yeah, no,
No
lot
pressure.
to live up
Yeah.
to there, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your character.
My character is Brick Pollitt. He is the favored son of the family. He's faced with a lot of kind of inner demons. that kind of come out through the course of the show. And overall, he's kind of just given up. He's given up on his family, he's given up on himself, he's given up on a lot of things. And we kind of see people trying to wake him up a little bit, trying to bring him about, and he just doesn't seem to want to have any of it. And it's just like most of William's characters, it's just a wonderful person to inhabit. He's flawed, he's deep, there's so many layers to that onion that you can peel. And this is my second Williams show. I was in Streetcar as well a couple seasons ago at another theater, and once this came up on the radar,
like,
I just,
me.
oh yeah, I'm there. I need to try that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it seems like it's a character that, you know, you could approach it from a few different angles, but so meaty and so rich that you can really just sort of lose yourself in there, just kind of dive in and start swimming around and see what happens.
Yeah, and you know, with this kind of script and with the guidance of Ted and the rest of the team, you know, we've just, it seems like every day there's something new that, oh, I never thought of that, you know, and you're saying a line that you've said dozens of times, and all of a sudden it's, oh, well, maybe that's what that means. And it's just a beautiful discovery process.
Well, you know, I think it's true too when, you know, you could start by channeling perhaps the most dysfunctional of your brothers-in-law or you know, whatever it would happen to be, people that you know or you've heard of. But behind every dysfunctional person, I mean, there's a reason. There's a reason that their life runs off the rails like that, whether it's, you know, the mother, the father, the circumstances, I mean, a trauma, abuse, you never really know. But I mean, I think, you know, the idea would always be that a perfectly normal child, if you will, or a young person growing up, if everything's going well, they're probably going to be a pretty functional adult, I mean, for the most part. So what happens? You know, what makes it go that way? And I think that's the kind of the intersection where it starts to get interesting for an actor, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
And Williams puts so much truth in his writing. There's so many things that you can recognize, you know, and that's a beautiful thing about this. This is a story about a family, and all of us can kind of recognize that character there and go, well, that's kind of my sister, or that's kind of my uncle, or wait, that's a little bit of me. And it kind of makes you kind of look at your relationships and how true or false some of them may be. So.
That's interesting. So obviously you're playing opposite Julia Sargent.
Yes.
Who, as we know, is a really talented actress, and she's been, people don't say actress anymore, right? Everybody's an actor now.
Everybody's an actor.
Actor.
Generic term.
So she's been in a number of plays at Gallery. I think people will, you know, easily recognize her, and that must be a lot of fun for you.
Oh, absolutely. And I've seen her in shows. I've you know, heard the name tons of times, and when I saw her in auditions, I was like, oh, that's great.
That's going to
awesome.
be good. Yeah,
You know?
nice.
Great face to see.
So maybe you can talk a little bit about the rest of the cast.
Yes, I think we have a really, really interesting cast, some really good people. For me, Lance was new to me. I watched him in a show, but I hadn't, you know, that was my first meeting with him, was in the plant.
Little shop.
The plant.
The plant show.
But with Julia, that's Maggie and Brick, and Big Mama and Big Daddy, Big Mama, Antonio Osterhout, who does not get on stage very often because of a lot of her other responsibilities. And Dave Lund, who is our Big Daddy, and he was last seen as Charlie on Golden Pond.
Oh, okay.
And let's see, then we've got Webb Thomas and Charity Benham, who's the older brother, and his wife, who have their own problems, things going, and they're wanting to get their own piece of the action. And we see 3 of 5 children, 6 coming, and the kids are cute. They're firecrackers. But you know, you gather a group of kids together and you say, well, I don't know how this is going to go, but they've blended in pretty well and do represent
the part of the family.
Obnoxious kids. The obnoxious kids. And then we have two other characters that come into the play. One is Doc Baugh, that's Walt Height, and Reverend Tooker, who represents the religion side, Norm Tognazzini.
Oh, he's great. Okay, I like Norm. Yeah.
So we've got this collection of some really fine people. Did I miss anybody? I think that's everybody.
I think you got everyone.
Okay.
Oh, I was going to say it's not difficult to get kids to be obnoxious. It's difficult to get them to be obnoxious on cue and good the rest of the time. It's like, okay, that's enough.
They do a fine job.
Yes, yes. And I don't see them off stage, so the Wranglers can take care of that.
Exactly.
Shanae.
Shanae, oh yes,
Shanae.
Right, thank you. Shanae, we were trying to decide how we were going to deal with the servant roles because this is a very Southern 1955 plantation. And one would normally see an African American in that role. Shanae came in and she is not African American, but she has kind of a little Latino flair to her. And she was the mother of one of the children, and she came to auditions, and so I had mentioned that I'd like to have one of the parents of the children to be there to be kind of a wrangler and so forth, and it went further and further, and so now she becomes Suki, our servant in the show.
Wonderful.
Doing very well. It's her
Great.
first opportunity to do anything like that, and
Perfect.
Gonna
That's a,
do
that's a
well.
great way to break in,
yeah.
especially if her child is interested in theater. I mean, community theater, that's a nice, a nice mix. So let's talk about the dates, the 17th to February 1st, coming right up. You wanted to talk about the buy one, get one?
We do have another first Saturday, buy one, get one. Buy one, get one on the January 18th.
Okay.
Only available by either showing up at the door and taking your chances, or you can contact the box office and get that deal. Can't get the deal online, so.
Okay, so it's a phone call to
Yes.
gallery's box office. Okay,
Right.
that's great. And then you talked also about the possibility of doing a talkback, one of the performances.
Yeah, we're working on the talkback. Charity Benham is a family counselor.
Right.
And she's in the cast. And their family needs a lot. Cooper may really need a lot. But we're working with this idea of that there are the big questions in here that a lot of families struggle with, and it's not a question of how Tennessee Williams deals with it, but what is prompted in our own lives by watching these characters who have these problems. And there's another doctor that I want to get together, and then we'll just sit around as we have done in some other talkbacks and say what questions, what observations, how does this relate in any way, or what does this tell you about these people in this kind of a situation?
I guess you could make the point that if Tennessee Williams had any actual answers, he wouldn't have written the play. He would have solved the problems and pressed on. So I guess we're lucky in a way.
I think he likes to raise the questions
Yeah.
more than answer the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what this play is about, really.
Absolutely.
Raising up this particular kind of a complicated situation, the people who have all of these needs, maybe, desires. Yeah. Yes, not going to provide a solution. Just say, here you are.
You have at it. Well, thank you very much for being here today. I'm really looking forward to seeing the play, so break a leg.
Go. He'll try not to.
Or an ankle.
Yeah, the fight choreographer notwithstanding, right?
Right.
Well, anyway, thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you.